welcome back to Pommy and Oz. If you are new around here, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. It does mean the world to me. We're smashing them out. Thank you all, thank you. We hit over 2,300. You guys and girls are absolutely legends. You can go a step further, become a member of the channel. Link is in the description to that. We do wonderful things. We sponsor Dom McCoy, who is his birthday today. So happy 20th to you, Dom. Enjoy your week off with VFL. And we've just recently acquired the great Shannon Gore. So she plays for the Preston Bullhounds. She's the captain. She's on Blue Abroad. She's an absolute jet and a diamond of a chick, and she's a phenomenal footballer and a great person. So we're honoured to be part of that. So jump on board, and if you're a returning Pommy Nozzer, good day to you. And today we're doing the preview of the GWS with a special Harry McKay segment. So thank you to Pete Hayward for requesting that. So without any further ado, let's check it out. So we start off then, GWS, they in a bit of a pickle, aren't they? They've recently just got rid of Leon Cameron. He has announced he's resigning. This is his last game, which is obviously an omen. I know people are going to be worried. I'm not really. I mean, they haven't exactly performed with him there. So with him leaving, is it really going to be much kerfuffle? I don't think so. They kind of reflect Carlton, don't they? They're the mirror image, 2 and 6. Their wins, obviously the win that they had the other week against Adelaide, we did very similar to Adelaide. We weren't really threatened either. And it was more of a show really of that tackle pressure. That is something that is a staple of the GWS system. It's very tackled. The big issue for me always when I look at GWS is their forwards. I don't think that they have enough potency in there. I don't think they're a strong enough marking outfit. I know that they've tried to change a few things and it's getting a little bit better. But for me, that is a big issue for GWS, that they do rely heavily on that tackle pressure. Kind of like what everyone's complained about Carlton for. On the other hand, though, Carlton are 6 and 2. We're flying, aren't we? Really impressive for me is that the 50 points in transition last week, the turnover, we're starting to see layers. And I think Carlton are the feel-good story for me in the 2022 AFL season. It is a feel-good story. They seem to just bounce back and they seem to have a layer. Obviously, big out though, yesterday afternoon, Harry McKay. We have got a special segment this week where we look into it. But for me, obviously, I am backing in the boys because every time we have this situation where you start to think, uh-oh, here we go again. These boys impress. These boys turn up. So the backstory is really a myriad. Big disappointment for GWS and probably overachieving for Carlton, which makes, I think, this an even more tasty fixture. Selection then, it's going to be an interesting one because obviously Carlton are going to have to make some changes. You'd imagine that Hewitt's going to be a late test, but you'd imagine that he will come in. You don't expect many changes from GWS, it has to be said, but you will expect that Carlton will definitely be looking to get Hewitt in if they can to cope with that tackle pressure and that real central focus of GWS. You'd also expect as well Carlton are going to have to make a change for Harry. So what that is, we'll cover it in a bit more depth in the end of this, but obviously a selection is that and Jack Martin. So with the Jack Martin one, will they go a Cottrell? Cottrell was phenomenal playing that high half forward role. He looked really accomplished and it really excited me looking at him in the VFL type. Cottrell is what I saw because he wasn't having to get into them positions himself. He was starting there. I really did enjoy that. So he could be an option. I've got a sneaky feeling though that they might go for Jesse Motlop. He has been playing the high half forward role almost exclusively the last 2 weeks, with the addition that he's been playing on the ball around stoppages and pinch hitting in the centre. And one thing that he does is he brings players in and he's got that tackle pressure. It's a real noticeable change. And we know Vossi the last couple of weeks has really, really enjoyed the options. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Motlop come in. And they would be the changes, I think. I would expect to see maybe a Plowman or a Kemp come in to alleviate the McKay loss. And I'll cover that in a bit later. But I would expect to see something like that occur at Carlton. Keys to winning. Well, with GWS, they tackle hard. What they look to do as well is they look to go horizontally across the field in transition. But they tackle really, really hard. And they are the #1 tackling team in the comp, and they're very high handball usage. And what this allows them to do is to stay in groups. And you'll find that with their tall timber, Himmelberg and Hogan, that they separate very well. So whoever's playing tall for them up forward, whichever selection way they go, you find that they stay each other's way, and they're kind of attributed to small forwards or two crummers, and they stay very, very quick with the handball, looking to get behind your lines and really stretch your zone. And very similar to Tex Walker, Himmelberg plays that Tex role, looks to get up the ground. And what I'm talking about, the horizontal, is you'll find in the bottom corners, about 60 out, he takes a lot of his marks, which opens up the 50 and creates an avenue of attack. A big key to winning for them is being able to do that with them handball chains. If you don't match their tackle pressure, you are in trouble, because they can move it around you. And what Geelong did miraculously last week, it's just no surprise, because they come from a very corridor-centric ground. Their home ground is they cut that off, and they look to be really hard and first to the ball, and they look to move it quickly themselves. But what Geelong do, and it's real hard when you play in Geelong, is they have the ability to hit the wing in tight areas, and that's what they did. So for Carlton, it's pretty much do what you do. Look to get that ascendancy in the centre and get it out wide. Now, it's interesting that a large proportion last week of inside 50s from Carlton will rebound inside 50s. And what that is the ball comes in and then comes straight back out and goes back in again. And that is attributed to our great forward pressure. Carlton are one of the top 3 teams in the comp. Tackles inside 50, pressure acts inside 50. It is a real cornerstone of what Carlton have done. And it's something that coaches have been talking about for the last 2 years that we're building. Carlton have brought that in, and that is integral in this one here, that you maximise the chances, because I don't believe GWS have the ability to come back in this game plan. This game plan requires tight games and then boring their way out and bullying you out of it. Carlton will be looking at that and thinking, if we can get the jump early, we can control this game because of the way it works. And the way that the handball works is they're looking for you to be active as well. So for Carlton, that's a big thing for them. Getting that pressure going, but also getting it away from the contest. And it's been interesting. We're seeing a lot of rotations, particularly in the stoppages. And that has been a key to Carlton's success the last 2 weeks, because it allows us to go and go when we need to. What will happen if? Well, I think a big thing for me is if Taylor gets on the end of some intercepts and Carlton start going back to that shallower, and GWS really do put that pressure on, and that pressure starts to prevent that real just pointless bomb, and we stop using intent with the ball, that is going to be an issue, because Taylor is a very, very crafty player, and he's got some very crafty players around him, Lockie Whitfield being one of them, who goes where the problems are, who can hurt us on the transition. If Carlton don't play what they have been doing, which is TDK and Doc being a wing protection, particularly from when we're inside 50, and stopping that transition, and if we don't get that funnel going where Carlton have been moving in groups, if you check out the scout report on blueabroad.com, I'll go into great detail on that. But what Carlton have done really well in transition defence is funneling it, leaving the wing open for the first kick to force it down that side. And TDK and Doc have been tandem, and then that allows, you had Jacob Whittaker been staying at home and playing very, very far back for a fullback when you have got the ball, and Young almost floating in that midfield and creating that havoc, because that is an issue. If that doesn't happen and Himmelberg gets off the leash and he's allowed that entry and allowed to be that conduit, because he has a really important job. When he comes 60 out and he takes that mark, it allows him to slow him down. And because they're handball-centric, it means they move up in masses. It is a mass. It is an army, a swarm of locusts, orange locusts. Because of the handball, they all stay together. So that is going to be a real key thing for Carlton, cutting off that chain. And I'm looking at Young and I'm looking at TDK for this, to really look at getting behind the ball and playing in them pockets of space, while Whittaker basically carries Hogan and gets him out of trouble. And if Carlton can do that, they will win this game quite comfortably. You'll be surprised. Now, the Harry McKay problem is an interesting one, isn't it? And it is, I'm not downplaying it. I know people are worried, but genuinely, I'm not. And I'll tell you for why. Carlton have got a few myriad of options, but this is the option I'm going to propose to you. Carlton have done really well, right? But one thing is paramount. The last 3 weeks, the entries have been deeper and we're starting to see more leads on that pocket. We're also seeing Cripps, JSOS, Fisher popping up in there because of the fact that we're having less disposals to get the inside 50, which is allowing us to be a lot more aggressive and a lot quicker and a lot out of position of the opposition. I would expect to see someone like Plowman or Kemp come in, and I'll tell you for why. It allows the rotation, in Kemp's case, if we need to swing him up forward and back, allowing Young to do the ruck down the back, maybe 10% in the centre, JSOS and TDK to do the majority of it in the centre and the forward, and allow Kemp to fill in them rotations. Could be Plowman as well, because it works the same way. Plowman could do that. Obviously, the forward, you're going to be looking at some elsewhere, maybe that. And then I'd imagine that we go with a Motlop or maybe a Fogarty. The only reason I don't have Fogarty in it is because he's been playing predominantly midfield. And it's a safe option, but I don't get it. And playing him, with Motlop being playing exclusively high forward as Martin, that then allows JSOS to slot in when needed. And then hopefully we put fingers crossed that if Hewitt comes back in, that could be a real sign there of Carlton maybe going bold and bringing Hewitt in for Newman, allowing an extra rotation down back. He did play 90% pre-round 12 for a year for Sydney as a defensive half-back, which would then take Toby Green out of it. But that additional rotation has it. And all that basically means is that Cripps, JSOS and TDK become more of a floating toe. You can also switch Young in that position if you brought Plowman over Kemp. And what that does is I don't think it changes the structure dramatically, but what it means is you're going to have to adapt. And people have been complaining about Owens and Durden. And I keep saying, Curnow and McKay are taking so many marks, it ain't happening. That is where you get excited all of a sudden and you all ring and message Owens and Durden and say, I'm really sorry I've slagged you off for just tackling all the time, because suddenly that becomes poignant. We are looking at the crummers. I am not worried because it causes chaos to your preordained zonal systems, having a Cripps and a TDK. Remember Richmond, very loosely based. It would be having a permanent toe in Curnow, who's mobile. He is basically Rewalt on steroids. And then having two medium toes and a fleet of small forwards. And that's why I think Motlop is the good choice in there. And a Plowman or a Kemp. I think it might be Plowman. I think they might look at his lockdown ability. I'd love it to be Kemp though, and in that swing motion. It's a shame Marchbank's not fit because he would be a shoo-in. But that is what I think we do. And that is why I'm confident, because that works. And if you watch, Charlie Curnow gets a lot of... McKay gets a lot of raps, but Curnow doesn't get enough raps that he has invariably been double-teamed. He was the most sought-after forward in the game last week. And he was double-teamed and triple-teamed. And because of his ability on the smalls, you find it takes a medium off. And that is why Cripps and JSOS are snagging. Because of that dangerous ability when the ball is on the deck, and Charlie is very proficient at doing it, it peels it off. So for me, I'm not worried. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Drop your comments. Let me know what you'll do. And let me know what you're worried about and what you're thinking about the game. Can't wait to entertain you on Sunday. Watch along on Blue Abroad. I'll be back tomorrow with a special guest host for the teams on Blue Abroad, so make sure you check that out. Come say hi. You're all interstate, so you're going to have to come and see me. Come and say hello and enjoy and have a great weekend. Palm out.